Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Story Time. We are continuing to read Journey to Joburg, and we are now on chapter 4. The last thing we read was Naledi and Tiro, the siblings, were given refuge, were given a place to stay by a kind young boy who is working in a farm. He's given them some food and he's given them shelter. I asked you whether you trust the character and whether you think our main characters trust the new boy. So keep that in mind while we're reading chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Ride on a Lorry. Tiro woke when he heard the rooster crow. The shed was already half lit. He shook Naledi. "Get up, we must hurry." As they crept out from the shed, they saw the farm buildings a little distance away, with thin smoke rising from the chimney. Silently, they ran through the long grass towards the orange trees. Then, through the orange trees, row after row, until there, at last, was the barbed wire. Finding the road again, they almost felt happy. The road was cool from the night, and they sang as they walked. The sun rose higher. On they walked. The heat sank into them, and they felt the sweat on their bodies. On they walked. Alone again, except for the odd flashing by of a car or a truck. Screech! Tires skidded and stopped. "Where are you two kids going?" The driver of the lorry stuck a friendly face out of the window. Ooh. Friendly face, I read that wrong. "Where are you two kids going?" The driver of the lorry stuck a friendly face out the window. "To Johannesburg, Ra." "Are you crazy? That's more than 250 kilometers away." "We have to go," Naledi said simply and explained. Well, that's something," the driver muttered. "It will take you about a week to walk that far, and your granny will be very worried. I should take you back home, but I'm late today already." He paused to think. "Do you know where your mother works?" Naledi nodded, pulling out the letter from her pocket. "All right then, hop on the back and I'll take you to Joburg. I'm taking the oranges there." "Thank you, Ra." The children laughed. They pulled themselves up onto the lorry, wedging themselves against the sacks of oranges. So they were really on their way, and it was the first time on a lorry too. The engine started up and the lorry was soon thundering along. Walking had been so quiet, but travelling in a lorry was so very noisy. The air, which had been so hot and still before, now swept past their faces. The land, which had stood still, now seemed to rush by. Thorn bushes, telegraph poles, wire fences, ploughed fields, cattle, rows of oranges, tall gum trees by a farmhouse. Almost as soon as they had seen something, it was gone. Little by little, Tiro had begun to lean further out over the side to feel the wind on his face. Naledi called, "Sit back or you'll fall," but her brother took no notice. Suddenly, the lorry went over a bump, and Tiro jerked forward. Naledi grabbed him just in time. "Didn't I tell you?" she shouted over the noise of the lorry. A little shaken, Tiro mumbled, "Sorry," I settled back properly against the orange sacks. Together, they watched the road stretching far out behind them. As the lorry sped on its way through the countryside, the children saw how the land was changing. Where they lived, the land was almost flat, with few hills. Now, for the first time, they were seeing proper mountains with steep rocks and crags. In some places, it looked as if the road had been cut through the rock. Naledi was wondering how people could cut through rock when Tiro asked her, "Where shall we find Ma in Joburg?" His sister took the letter from her pocket and stared at the words at the top of the page. This is them in the lorry. Last page. "It's a place called Parktown," she read slowly. Tiro looked at the letter and studied the words too. Naledi began to think of their mother and how when Ma visited them, Her first remarks were always about how they must work hard at school. When they had asked Ma why she worked so far away from home, her reply had been, "How else can I find the money to send you to school?" But it was still very strange, thought Naledi. Once she had asked Ma, "Why can't we live with you in the city? We could go to school there, couldn't we?" Ma had seemed upset, but she just said, "The white people who make the laws don't allow it. That's how it is." But why not? Why not? Thought Naledi. And that's the end of chapter 4. Okay, so it seems like the children are really now on their way to meet their mum. I want you in the comments below to tell me, to predict, do you think they will be successful? Do you think that in the next couple of chapters we will get to meet Naledi and Tiro's mum? I hope you enjoyed chapter 4. I will be posting chapter 5 tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Bye.